Hey everybody, Rob D'Alessio, Taste of Retirement. Today what we're doing is a New Orleans style broiled oyster. They are super simple to make. They are absolutely fantastic and they smell amazing. Come on, let me show you how we do it. All right, New Orleans broiled oysters. If you go down to New Orleans, there's some restaurants. They are known for charbroiling their oysters, and we can do that also. You can cook them on a grill where you get that nice heat from the bottom. We're doing it the other way around. We're gonna do it in the oven to where it's under the broiler and that heat's gonna come from on top. How do you pick your oyster? You gotta trust your fishmonger. First things first, there's an old wives' tale that you shouldn't eat oysters in months that don't end in the letter R. That's an old tale. It came from how they used to be caught and molting and different things like that. So we're not worried about that now. They're farm raised and it's okay. Traditionally, you would use a Gulf oyster. Couldn't get our hands on any of those, so what we are using is a Chesapeake oyster. Those are from the East Coast. I do want to tell you this. I would never do this recipe with the West Coast oyster, just because those have a much more briny flavor to them, and you want to let that oyster stand alone. Oysters are so versatile. You can do a lot of things with them. You can make, salads. You can actually fry them and do po' boys, or you can do what we're doing today. So we've got a little over a dozen oysters, and the ingredients that we're going to use today: kosher salt, coarse ground black pepper. We've got a mixture of freshly grated Parmesan and Pecorino. We've got fresh chopped parsley, garlic, oregano, and then butter. And I use an unsalted butter because that way you can control the salt content. What I did was melt a stick of butter down and then let it just get to room temperature, because that's where I want it now. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take the oyster and we're gonna shuck it. And you wanna buy an oyster knife. Some people have used screwdrivers. I wouldn't do that. I mean, you can. I definitely would not use one of your good knives. And I always want to make sure that you're protecting yourself, because you can jam this thing into your hand if you do. So you want to have a couple towels and you just kind of work back and forth. You find an area that you can get in there and keep working back and forth. And then eventually it'll go. Yeah, I've always found it funny. I always get fascinated. Things like mushrooms and things like oysters and clams and all those things. Like, who thought when they looked at this and said, man, they opened it up and they saw that and they thought, gosh, that looks delicious. I want to have some of that. I'm glad somebody did it, because I wouldn't do it, but man, I love oysters. So when you do it, you want to scrape it off that piece of the collective muscle, and then you've got the oyster just sitting there by itself. And then I'm gonna put the top back on just for now, just to keep it as fresh as possible. All right, so I've got them all shucked, and I've got the top shell still on it just to keep them fresh for as long as possible. One of the things I wanna tell you, if you go to a good fishmonger, Whole Foods, or even a local one, if it's a really solid one that you trust, odds are they'll shuck the oysters for you. Now, I wouldn't buy them a long time in advance. Overnight would be okay, but then you wanna put like a damp towel and some ice with them to keep them fresh overnight. But anything more than one day, I would not do. So what we're gonna do now is make the butter mixture. We've got the softened butter. We've got a couple tablespoons of garlic, fresh chopped garlic. And then we've got about a tablespoon and a half of oregano. And then just mix that up and just get a nice consistent mixture with it. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a dollop of butter, if you would, or a spoonful of butter on each oyster. And then what we're gonna do is put that under the broiler. What I love about making like these butter mixtures is this is a garlic oregano butter, right? It's very versatile. If you don't use it all, which we probably won't today, then you can save it. You can even like roll it up and cut it into slices, and you could put it on bread later. It's almost like an impromptu garlic bread, or on a steak, or in some kind of pasta dish. It's super versatile. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the spoonful of butter on the oyster, and then we're gonna broil it for about 5 minutes. The oyster will start to kind of curl up. And then what we'll do is take it out and garnish it with the parm and the parsley, and it's just gonna be absolutely fantastic. Watch. All right, so we have the butter on each one of them, and look, there's no perfect science. Don't worry if it spills over on the sides or anything like that, because if it does so, it'll smoke a little bit, and we want that smoke flavor. So we're gonna put them in the oven, broiler on high, So obviously you want them just a few inches from the broiler, or like I said, if you're doing it on the grill, over the hottest part of the grill. Either one's acceptable. And then we're just gonna let them go about 5 minutes. And it could get a little bit smoky, but that's okay. That's all deliciousness. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. Now, there's a couple of things that you cannot experience right now. One, it smells unbelievable. Scratch your phone, smell it. Don't do that. But the other thing is you can't hear how happy those oysters are. We actually were gonna put a microphone in the oven, but I don't think with the temperature that was gonna work out very well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the oysters out now and then we're gonna finish them up. So the garlic's got that good color on it. The butter has started to brown a little bit. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the cheese. We got the Pecorino and the Parmesan, and that heat will help kind of melt that cheese a little bit. And we're gonna go lightly salt afterwards because the cheese actually has some good salt content in it. And just so you know, when I'm buying cheese, I spend that extra money. The Parmesan that we bought was a 24-month Parmesan, so it's expensive, but it's worth it. You get what you pay for, and a little goes a long way. Okay, and so then, like I said before, I chopped up some parsley. And there's no perfect science to this because not all oysters are created the same, so some of the cheese might fall off on the tray, anything like that. That's all okay, no problem. Now, a lot of times people will eat oysters with hot sauce. You don't have to do that in this case. You can, I guess, if you want. You can put hot sauce on whatever you want. It's your food, your money. But I think I'd let the flavors stand out for themselves. All right, a little bit of salt. So I'll just go from the high level. Pepper, just very, very little pepper. And coarse ground pepper is going to have a little bit more flavor to it. You know, pack a punch if you would. So you want to be really careful about that. And then fresh parsley. This is more for garnish and for appearance. There you have it, the New Orleans style broiled oyster. Again, you can char broil it on a grill or you can do it in the oven. Either way works out wonderful, and it was super simple. If you like what you saw today, click that link, like and subscribe. You'll see amazing content just like this. I'm Rob D'Alessio, and this was A Taste Over Time.